All right, let's hop right into this. It is the day before draft month. The Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. Landry Locker here. You can also see me, hear me on SNL with Cody Stutes, which one of the clips that we played on there has kind of resurfaced on the internet, and it's kind of generated a lot of discussion about McMillan and whether Tetairoa, I'll get it right if he's ever a Texan. I just call him Tet McMillan. Apparently he hates that. But whether or not him falling to the Texans would be a possibility, or whether or not they would trade up for him. And I'm hearing a lot of dialogue. I've talked to people who I respect, ask their opinion about this. And some people say, I want no part of him because he doesn't like football. And then other people say, hey, let's run the pickup if McMillan is there, and let's make the selection. And John Harris is one of the guys who said that. We'll have him on the stream a little bit later. But I kind of disagree with what he's saying there and what that would actually mean. I think there is a ideal way to get McMillan, but I think the manner in which John Harris, when I asked him about it, is talking about, I think it might actually be a nightmare. And my reasoning is this. I think that if McMillan falls to the Texans, then that means something's wrong with this group of wide receivers and with this level of talent. If he falls to the Texans at 25, that means something's wrong, right? I mean, that means 24 teams find something wrong with him. Now, people fall for different reasons. And over history, we've seen guys fall and they've ended up being Hall of Fame caliber players. But with this group of wide receivers, to me, I would be more encouraged if the Texans like McMillan enough to where they trade up for him. That would be more encouraging for me than McMillan falling into your lap, because there's a lot of teams that need wide receivers. There's probably 3, maybe 4 tops that are going to go in the first round. So if he falls to you, that kind of tells me that something's wrong. Something's wrong with the guy. I just don't, I don't know what else to say about it. Like, maybe he's going to be a good player. Maybe he's going to be a bad player. If you miss the clip, every single aggregator in the world has kind of picked this up. And it wasn't like we said it and that was what it was. We just dug up the clip. Cody Stutes dug up the clip. We reacted to it. And then one of our subscribers put it out. So it's kind of funny because the viral clip that's going around has me and Cody, and we're in suits. We're literally playing Shark Tank. We're literally playing Shark Tank and having the discussion. But here is the clip. And I guess that's Dove Kleeman's version.
Well, you know what? You don't watch football? At all?
At all.
Is it hard to watch film then if you don't like watching football?
Yeah.
For real? That's crazy.
I don't like watching film either. I don't ever need to watch it by myself because we go over as a receiver group.
All right, so there you go. That's the clip. And a lot of the people that had strong opinions were kind of making stuff up about it and, you know, saying, hey, he was secretly filmed. I mean, that was his own production. It was 2 years ago. But I think the conversation's valid. I think it's a valid conversation to have. And this is the one thing that I want to kind of hammer home, because there's a couple of points that I try to make this time of the year when it comes to the draft. And if you're just joining, I think that McMillan falling to 25 would be worse than the Texans trading up for him, because that would mean that 24 teams passed on him. And that would mean something's wrong. He seems like a good kid. Haven't heard anything bad about him. You hear guys fall for character. I haven't heard anything bad about him. Actually, I've heard really good things about him. So if he's falling, it's a combination of speed and maybe something else. Sometimes guys fall and there ends up being proven a reason why that happened. But we'll see how this whole thing works out and what it looks like. Herman says he kind of feels Des Bryant is. Des Bryant had maturity issues. He still does. I've witnessed them closely. I don't think this kid has those. From a Texan standpoint, Dylan says Arian Foster didn't love football. I don't think that's true. I know he says it now, and I'll tell you why I don't think it's true. This isn't just me like arguing just to argue, because I would understand why you would think that. But Wade Smith, who's a friend of mine, good friend of mine, and a guy who blocked for Arian Foster, we've done multiple shows together. I text him every once in a while. He is a hardcore volleyball girl dad right now. I mean, he is he is damn near Richard Williams with all the athletes that he's putting out there to play volleyball. And he's saving a hell of a lot of money because it seems like damn near every one of his girls gets a scholarship. So shout out to Smitty. But Smitty has always said that what Arian says now, like about football and how he felt about it, he said he didn't feel that when he was in the huddle with him or talking to him or anything like that. So I don't know that I think Arian's gotten a little bit more laid back, a little bit cool, but Wade Smith said he's never really felt like the casual approach to football that Arian kind of tries to put out now. So I don't know about that. I think Cam brings up the best point, and this is how we localize this. DeMeco wants his players to love football. He said it at least 50 times this year. He said it at least 50 times. What is swarm? What kind of players do you like? He said it 50 times. Cam, you can tell that you follow this team closely. And look, we all know that guys are not finished products at 19. But there's some people that are just so quick to jock sniff and meat ride these athletes to where there's like things like, oh, he's 19 years old. Why are we bringing this up 2 years later? Have you ever had a job interview? Like, honestly. And the reality of the situation is jamokes like me, fans, we react. And that's part of the reason why it's so popular. That's part of the reason why there's so much money. I think there's a grain of salt. There's an appropriate way to do it. But there's just been kind of a weasel factor when it comes to this type of stuff to where everything has to be so incredibly dramatic that is just basic draft stuff. I remember a couple of years ago when there was like a whole movement. I think it was Ryan Clark being all sensitive and stuff. And he was like, why do we call guys busts? Dude, it's not that serious. It doesn't mean they suck at life. It means they didn't live up to their status as a draft pick. It's not like the end of the world. So, yes, unfortunately for Tet McMillan, him getting a job out of college, the attention is a little bit more magnified. More people care, more people have interest, and more people have opinions. But this isn't someone like bringing something like too crazy to the forefront. He said he didn't like football. It was clear that he wasn't joking at the time. He's obviously grown. Some people would say it doesn't even matter if he likes football. And I think there's something to that. Some coaches like DeMeco Ryan say they want guys who love football. Some coaches don't care. Some players don't watch it and they perform well. Some players have such little interest. That's the beauty of the draft. That's the beauty of the draft. And this is what I want to hammer home. Exceptions and examples are the only draft absolute. The beauty of the draft is it's unpredictable. You don't know whose name's going to be called. It's almost like sitting around and hearing Stone Cold Steve Austin's music 32 times in one night and then hundreds of times after that. You don't know what's going to happen. And if you like a prospect, you know what you do? And by you, I mean me, I mean us. You know what we do? We point to like the exception because there is one. There is one. And we use the example. Exceptions and examples. There's exceptions to every rule. This guy ran a slow 40. Oh, I don't want him. And then someone says, Jerry Rice ran a slow 40. This running back's a first-round pick. Well, you can find running backs late in the draft. Look at Terrell Davis. Happens all the time. This school doesn't produce quarterbacks. Well, this did. Like, it's exceptions and examples are the beauty of this. So the McMillan thing is interesting dialogue. I don't think you just completely dismiss it, though, because he wasn't kidding. And this wasn't like some sort of like surprise. This was like a borderline his type of production. Like it was an off-season video from him. Does it matter? Maybe not. To some coaches, it does. I think this coach cares. I don't think you could go to, let me put it this way. I don't pretend to be DeMeco Ryan's best friend. I've interacted with him as much as you guys have seen, like at the press conferences. Sometimes he likes my questions. Sometimes he likes crapping on my questions. It doesn't matter. But the one thing that I do think about DeMeco Ryans, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong here. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong here. Because this is an educated opinion. This is an educated opinion here. And y'all tell me if you disagree. It doesn't matter if you disagree. Do you think that Tet McMillan could go into a meeting with DeMeco Ryans and say, I really don't like watching film. I don't like to watch football, but I watch it whenever they put it on in the wide receiver room? What do you think DeMeco Ryans would say to that? Let's be serious. I think we all know what DeMeco Ryans would say to that. He would say, thanks, but no thanks. We'll holler at you later. I think we all know that with DeMeco Ryans. So the Tet McMillan dialogue is valuable. If he falls to 25, I think we got to have questions. If they trade up for him, then that means they liked him. That means they looked past it. But in this draft, if he falls back, I think that's actually a nightmare situation, because that means something might be wrong with him. We'll see what happens. They might not even get the opportunity. Someone might fall in love with the guy. But there's definitely dialogue, and the stuff is definitely valid. So it's really not that deep. It's not that big of a deal. I saw Warren Sharp wanted to clear it up by trying to make a clip clear about a clip that he's taken out of context. Warren Sharp needs to stick to numbers. He does a good job with numbers. When he tries to add context, it's bad. There's some guy, it's very useful numbers, but anything else, it's bad. Most of the draft guys agree with that. I mean, he said he had 1,000 yards receiving. That doesn't mean anything. And then he said a podcast and then wanted to make the other clip clear. So, yeah, you can dismiss it. You can say that it's the worst thing in the world. You can say that it matters. You can say it doesn't matter. Whatever. But we'll see how it goes. Gus talking about the Steve Smith thing. This has gotten a lot of attention too. Says, no way, go watch number 89, Steve Smith, review his game. He checks out when he has to play against talent. I saw Steve Smith say that, and I also saw him as Steve Smith's number 2 receiver. Now, that might be symbolic of how weak this class is. But yeah, Steve Smith says that. And if you have a combination of a guy who checks out against good talent and a guy who perhaps, maybe, possibly might not like football, not a great combination. On the chat, Trey of Texas. Shout out to Trey. Part of me wants to say, who cares if he likes to watch football and study film? Once drafted, he is paid to do so and better do it. Sure. Possible. Just remember, Exceptions and examples, the only draft absolute. That's it. It is the locker room #1 source for Texans digital content. Check out today's SNL. Cody Stutes is live at the owners' meetings. We talked more in depth about the clip going viral. We also got into some of the other topics from the day. Cody is holding it down out there, doing some hotel stuff. He laid on his back during his video. I don't know what he was doing there. I mean, I already saw you were relaxed. I don't know why you're laying down talking. I don't know what he was doing. Don't threaten me with a good time on Omarion Hampton. I would take him all day. I would take Henderson. I mean, I'm pro running back at this point. Pro running back at this point. Let's talk about EJ Speed. EJ Speed, you might remember him from such podcasts as we're gonna teach CJ Stroud a lesson, blah blah blah. We're coming for the Texans, yada yada yada. Did not happen. And CJ Stroud, amidst all this drama, CJ Stroud basically said EJ Speed didn't really make any plays, but essentially what he was saying was he's not very good. He's not good enough to be talking the way he's talking. He's not good enough to have a podcast that goes viral. That's basically what CJ was saying. Let's just be serious about it. That's what he was saying. Might not be a direct quote, but that's what he was saying. And he's right. EJ Speed is a depth linebacker for the Houston Texans. I think EJ Speed is a good depth linebacker for the Houston Texans. When you have Christian Harris, you never know how many games you're going to have him out there. So EJ Speed, depth was rough on the linebacker position last year. Wasn't good. But they added EJ Speed. And he had 146 tackles last year, whatever it was. He started 36 games in 6 years. Colts people that I listen to say he's not really a full-time linebacker. And I think that's true. He was among the league leaders in tackles, but he was among the league leaders in missed tackles. And some say, how can you have that many tackles and not be really, really good? Well, let me present something to you. I present to you, I'll make these bigger. Neville Hewitt stats before he came to the Texans. You see right here, Neville Hewitt, 134 tackles the year before he came to the Texans. Cal McNair called him a tackling machine. We know he's a reserve guy. So don't look at tackles as like some sort of end-all be-all of what a receiver is. I also think that the fact that his name is EJ Speed and the fact that we hear a lot more about him than you typically do a player of that caliber, I think it kind of adds a little bit of juice. But he's a good depth signing. Like, look at it like, and it's around the same value. Look at it as like a Derek Barnett, Mario Edwards Jr., all that type of stuff. That's what Speed is. He just happened to have some things to say about CJ in the past. Who cares? CJ likes to bust balls. CJ likes to talk trash. No big deal. It was amusing, quite honestly. The EJ Speed. So we'll see what happens. I will say this, though, and I do want to make this very clear. I saw, and I like him. Good dude. 713 Sports, aka Big Ruben, I saw him say that Christian Harris is the odd man out. Dude, come on. Let's be serious, okay? Like let's just make this very clear. I'll put it on the screen. EJ Speed cannot hold Christian Harris's jock. They're not on the same level whenever Christian Harris is healthy. Now, that doesn't happen as often as you'd like. But EJ Speed can't hang with Christian Harris. He's not that type of dude. And I think even thinking about not seeing what happens with Christian Harris this year would be one of the biggest mistakes the Texans could make. That'd be one of the biggest mistakes they can make. He's cheap. Linebacker position from this year to next year is going to be very questionable. You don't know what the future will be with Aziz. You don't know how much longer he's going to play at the high level. There's a lot of wear and tear there. You don't have really any long-term guys. Christian Harris, say what you want about him. DeMeco was more excited about Christian Harris last year than damn near any player. The injuries, they took him out of it, but it's a cheap contract. It's a make or break type of situation for a guy with mega talent. And the more bodies, the better at linebacker. So moving on from Christian Harris I think it would be among the top 5 dumbest things that they could do, unless they think that he's not going to be healthy this year, or there's like some sort of other thing behind the scenes, which I've never heard them say anything except extraordinary things about him. Not just good things, extraordinary things about him. So I want to make that clear. But it would be one of the dumbest things that they did with the state of this linebacker position. And now you have depth to where you don't have to overly rely on Christian Harris. To move on from Christian Harris and try to push him to the side would be idiotic. I'm buying Christian Harris stock right now. I'm buying the hell out of Christian Harris stock right now. It was high last year. We got a little bit of a price drop, and I'm in. I'm buying it. Give me all the Christian Harris stock that you can give me. But as far as getting rid of him, it would be weird. And there's some dumb things they could do, but if they traded some of their best players, like, they would probably get value back. You're not getting anything for Christian Harris at this point. You don't sell low on Christian Harris. You got to see what's going on. And EJ Speed, if both guys are healthy and both guys are ready to go, EJ Speed ain't in that ballpark. Let's just make that very, very clear. Now, EJ Speed might end up being important and you can connect him. The only way that you connect them, though, is that if Christian Harris gets hurt, maybe we see more EJ Speed. That would be the way to look at this. So we'll see. Some people might hold it against him that he did the podcast. Some people might hold it against him that EJ Speed's on a podcast talking crap. And that is crazy, right? And that's why I think, like, in the hit version, like, I'm not gonna have like a straw man, but in like the stratosphere that we live in, where we're talking Texans and we're going in depth, like, the name kind of rings a bell. No other team in the world would have really been fired up about EJ Speed. No one would have been like overly pumped about EJ Speed. Right? Like, but here it's a little bit of a bigger deal. And they also need depth. It's a good signing. Not some sort of big bomb. The league spoke to him. 1 year, 4.5. Come through. Carlton State's finest. Shout out to EJ Speed. Depth guy. Hopefully, and I think they're probably going to try to play a little bit more 3 linebacker sets next year. That makes this possible. But I think he's fine. On the chat, Herman says, I'm talking. Shout out to Herm, big Herm. You're talking like Harris is the second coming of Ray Lewis. No, I'm not. I'm talking like he is the linebacker on this team that possesses the most upside. Period. He possesses the most long-term upside. He's young. And right now he's pretty cheap. Like, even if Christian Harris has a really good year, you're probably going to get him on the cheap, or you're going to figure something out. Christian Harris has been playing linebacker for 6 years now. It's raw, man. But we saw what he could do 2 years ago. We hear what DeMeco says. If you were telling me, like, if right now the Texans needed to sign Christian Harris, I would say, man, like, what's the price? But right now, he's still on the rookie deal. If what we've seen from Christian Harris now is the same a year from now, then bye-bye. But you owe it to yourself to see what happens in that final year. Even if he uses you to get overpaid somewhere, that's great. He's in a contract year. So you have a player that's motivated. You have a player that DeMeco Ryans talks about how talented he is. He has upside and he's cheap. And when he's on the field, he's good. But second coming of Ray Lewis, no. He's just way effing better than EJ Speed. Like, that's really all I'm saying. That there's no comparison. It's not close. It's not like a competition in camp. If Christian Harris is healthy, he's a better football player than EJ Speed, period. I have no problem saying that. They think that too, I'm sure. So we'll see how that goes. Frank Z says, Ruben of 713 Sports, he's the only Texans podcaster who picked the Texans to win 10 games in CJ's first year. I love Ruben. Ruben's my boy. I like him a lot. Good for him for making that pick. I picked him to win the division too, but I don't care. Like, that doesn't mean anything. I wanted Bryce Young too, so whatever. But we'll see what it is. Let's see how he played this season. Okay, no shit. God. I swear. Like, no kidding. Like, let's see how he played this season. Yeah, that's probably we're gonna do that. Okay, gotcha. We'll see. Anthony on the chat says, Landry thought you might think this was funny. They had a Texans playoff game from 2019 on NFL Network. Very first play overtime was a Laramie Tunsil false start. I don't know if that's funny or not. I don't know if that's funny or not. Landry said, Landry, don't be rude, impossible. Don't be rude, challenge, impossible. I don't know what that means either. What's rude? Let's see how he plays. Like, that's what we're getting in the chat. Let's see how he plays. Yeah, okay. Like, I want to see how Christian Harris plays. I think it's worth the risk. What is that? Like, the chat's flowing, everybody's talking. Let's just see how he plays, okay? We don't know yet. Yeah, okay. I always say go protest at McDonald's and tell them they're eating unhealthy. It's an off-season football chat. There you go. Challenge. You know what? I am going to do a challenge. I think this is a really good motivation from Rich Boy. I actually like this suggestion. I love suggestions. So Rich Boy says, Landry, don't be rude, challenge impossible. So you're saying I can't be rude? And that's the challenge? Okay. I'll do that. I'm down with that. You know what? It's the off season. Content's rolling. I think that's a great suggestion from Rich Boy. So we'll call it the challenge.
These nuts.
The hell out of here with that. Nothing rude about that. Everything is a hypothetical at this point. In the draft, in the offseason, everything's a hypothetical. It's the world we live in. Mock drafts, what are they? They're hypotheticals. Free agent signings, they're hypotheticals. How do they work in? So everything's a hypothetical. And then you see how it plays out. I don't think you like hang your hat on being right. If you explain what you were thinking and you end up being wrong, I think that's fine too. But everything's a hypothetical at this point. No doubt. Everything. So let's hear from DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans was at the owners' meetings. Cody Stutes was on the scene. He starts out talking about Laramie Tunsil. So let's go ahead and react to this. DeMeco Ryans. Let's react. DeMeco Ryans live at the owners' meetings. We haven't heard from him in a long time. We haven't heard him since free agency. We heard him a little bit talk about Stingley. We haven't heard him with free agency, really. We haven't heard him since they traded Laramie. We haven't heard him since they traded Kenyon Green. We haven't really heard him talk about Christian Kirk. Let's hear from DeMeco Ryans. Let's react to it. A lot of things that he had to say about the offensive line, Laramie Tunsil, et cetera. Let's react live in the locker room.
I mean, it's really tough. There's nothing easy about that because Laramie is such a great player. You put the tape on Sunday. He's arguably one of the best one-on-one pass protectors in the NFL. So it's hard to lose a player of his caliber. But also at the same time, it was a trade we felt was beneficial to both parties. We were able to get quality draft picks out of the trade, send Laramie to a really good team as well. So I think we both benefited from the trade, but it's going to be hard to replace him as well. So you see we've added a few offensive linemen, Cam Robinson, Trent Brown, Ed Ingram, Laken Tomlinson. The idea behind adding those guys is just going to add some veteran guys who played for a while. They've done it the right way. Guys play hard and really wanted to enhance just competition in the room. We have a good core of young guys, added some veteran guys, and with the mix of guys, the messaging to everyone is let's see who our best 5 guys will be, and let's see what that competition will make of us. Competition always, to me, it makes everyone around you better. So the idea behind the moves we made is just in a move to improve our offensive line to get everyone better.
And I look, I think that DeMeco, he can be right about the logistics of why they got rid of Laramie Tunsil. They would have had to get rid of Laramie Tunsil even if he were the perfect guy, whether he is or not, perfect culture guy, whatever. So there could be that factor, and there could also be the other factor. Eventually, the economic part of the game will catch up to you. I do think that, that the Laramie Tunsil dialogue about him being able to move a certain way and other guys not being able to do it, I do think there's something to it. Do I think it's the number one reason? No. But the C word there is interesting too. He mentioned competition. And last year in training camp, it was kind of surprising because this wasn't like the greatest offensive line. I know it was a little bit gassed up heading into camp, but there was no competition. All 5 guys were starters. Now, started out, Blake Fisher was getting a lot of reps early in camp, but he was never the starter. So competition is something that DeMeco Ryans speaks on. It didn't take place on the offensive line last year. There's going to be a hell of a lot of competition. It's damn near a battle royal. Let's hear more from DeMeco.
Titus obviously played both positions. Do you anticipate him playing one position, tackle or guard, or do you anticipate leaving it open?
Yeah, it's all open to everyone. Titus has done a great job of being able to have that flexibility to play outside and to play inside, and he's shown that he can do both. So I think Titus, and he's willing to play wherever, and he's done a really good job when asked to go inside. He did a really good job for us and played really good for us down the stretch when he played guard.
Laramie mentioned when he met with the Washington media that when he sat down with you guys,
this is Stutes, other half of SNL, asking about the Laramie thing. Look at DeMeco. He's ready for this. Laramie said what? He doesn't know. But we'll hear from DeMeco. I think this is an interesting answer. But the Titus thing, yeah, we'll see what happens with Titus. He could be an expensive swing guard tackle. He could be your starting guard. He could be a starting tackle. Who the hell knows? But it's not, hey, he's our right tackle. So Titus, it's kind of a demotion. You're battling for your job. You didn't have to battle for it last year. The guy that you idolize is no longer here. Got to be ready to go, man. You got to be ready to play both. It's not going to surprise you. You're battling for almost damn near a roster spot. There's a number of scenarios with Titus Howard. Let's hear what DeMeco had to say about Tunsil, though.
Conversation about, hey, part of this is making the money fit long term with some of the other guys, and then he mentioned Stingley getting the extension. Was that kind of was that one of the driving forces behind having to make that trade? I know you said it was difficult, but the long-term outlook of the team financially.
It's difficult. We also through Stingley's extension, I think everyone can see the message there. We want to send a message to all of our young guys, and when you do it the right way, guys like Stingley, DeMeco, young guys who came in and they played really well for us, became top players in the league at their positions. You want to reward those guys. I don't want everyone to see that, man, we're going to reward guys for doing it the right way. It's still nothing to do with Laramie. That's still hard to lose Laramie. Everybody understands Laramie is a good player. We're not trying to turn away good players. So it was a difficult one to do, but one that we felt was in the best interest of our team.
You did kind of give Danielle Hunter a hell of an extra year, which kind of lines up with the last year of Tunsil's deal. Let's be really serious about that. Let's make that very clear. But he is right. Like, the logistics would have factored in no matter what. So they would have factored in. So he's absolutely right about that. But it is interesting. And I think the logistics do factor in, but Danielle Hunter did get a hell of a 1-year extension that is lined up with what would have been Laramie Tunsil's final year of his contract. That does need to be kind of mentioned. Back to DeMeco.
There was a narrative that you guys were trying to change the culture within the O-line room.
All right, here we go. There was a narrative. This is DJ Bieneme. He wrote the Tunsil article as well on ESPN. DeMeco's never going to throw a player under the bus. So we'll hear what DeMeco had to say about this.
There's some reports that there was a toxicity in the O-line room that you guys were trying to get rid of. Can you just kind of speak to that? If there's any truth to that, anything of that nature, just kind of that narrative that was kind of put out there after Laramie was traded?
I think our guys in that room, they competed, they battled. It didn't always go how we wanted it to go, but there was nothing toxic in the room. Those guys showed up to work every day. Those guys were a tight group. They went out to dinners throughout the week. So those, I don't know where their report came from, but it's very incorrect. That's nothing in our building. That's nothing I stand for. As the head coach of the team, we bring in the right people. We bring in good guys, and all those guys are great guys.
So toxic, like the word toxic, like I don't know. I saw opinions on the Tunsil thing. I saw educated opinions on it. But the toxic reports, like when I think report, I think of Adam Schefter reports. I think about that. So DeMeco's never going to throw any players under the bus, and you got to take with a grain of salt what coaches say. Sometimes they're not going to tell you the truth, which is cool. But DeMeco's always going to go to bat for his players. And I think that's something that they respect. I think that's why a lot of times whenever their backs are against the wall, they react for him. I haven't heard too many players say bad things about DeMeco Ryans. But it's damn sure not the gospel when he talks about the offensive line, because last year he said they weren't playing that bad. Like when we saw Kenyon Green and Shaq Mason and Titus Howard and Juice Scruggs struggling, he basically said there's too much negativity and we're not playing that bad. Well, what did they do? They got rid of all of them and they moved them all around. So I think there's a line to kind of draw. He's never going to throw players under the bus. I don't know where the report was of like toxic. Like I don't know who reported that. Like maybe changing the culture in the offensive line room to where, maybe I don't know what that means, but toxic. And even if it was, he wouldn't tell us. It's just how DeMeco rolls. Let's hear more from him.
Defense adding C.J. Gardner-Johnson with the Kenyon Green trade. How much do you feel like having a chess piece like him? What are some of the things that you think of with a guy like that that gets after the football and obviously is a feisty guy?
Well, C.J. instantly improves our back end. I think he, not only from his play, but him pairing with Kalen, I think Kalen's game is definitely going to improve from just seeing how CJ plays and how he prepares. You can feel the passion, the love for football that CJ has.
You just heard that right there, right? Say that one more time. This goes back to what we were talking about with the McMillan talk. Whether you agree or not, Texans care about guys who have passion and love for football. I think this is the 105th time that DeMeco has said it. But listen to this. He's talking about C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Why do you like him? Here it is right here.
And how he prepares. You can feel the passion, the love for football that CJ has. And it's just my first conversation with him. Like he got me fired up talking to him. So he's going to fit right in as a swarm player for us, and I'm excited to get to work with him.
Swarm. And missed most of this year. What's your goal for him, and what do you envision for him coming into this, I think, 4th year for him?
Christian,
yeah, here you go.
He just has to,
like any talk about Christian Harris. Just listen to how he talks about Christian Harris. This is a big year for Christian Harris. He needs a good year. So if he has an awesome year, let's say that Christian Harris has a great year and he prices himself out of Houston, that means it was a awesome year. If he has a great year and he establishes himself as a long-term piece, great. This is the perfect, like the way that this lined up for Christian Harris, it's ideal. It's ideal. And DeMeco typically, I haven't seen this yet. DeMeco typically lights up when you talk about number 48.
Put the work in like Christian always does. He's just an unfortunate thing that happened to him last year with the injury. And, it just took longer than we all expected. And I know it was tough on Christian mentally, but he was able to battle back and get in there some, but he missed so much time last year. But Christian was having an outstanding offseason the prior year, so I'm looking forward to him to do the exact same, have a great offseason, come in a training camp healthy, ready to go, and let's see what it looks like and compete.
What do you expect from the
compete
other Christian that you guys had, Christian Kirk, and how nice was it to have
Cody,
a player like him available for you guys?
Yeah, excited to add Christian. I've been watching him for a while now back in Arizona and Jacksonville. He's always a guy that you watch, and he's always impressive to me, just how he played the game. Plays fast, plays tough. So excited to add him to our team. I think he's another guy who's just his mindset is I'm coming in to help the team win games. Like his mindset is exactly the type of guy that I would want to work with, and I think our guys will really enjoy working with him.
The defensive line.
DeMeco focuses a lot on that mindset. I'm just telling you, like the McMillan thing, you might not think it's a big deal. This guy, he says it all the time, the mindset. Maybe it's changed, but what we saw at the 19, that's not what he likes. It's not what he likes.
You guys are
Once you obsessing over football.
that you said at the combine you were going to do that. Having Sheldon Rankins back, getting Mario back, adding Daryl Taylor, and then extending Daniil. What are your thoughts on kind of what you have there with the D-line?
A lot, Aaron.
We have a healthy group of guys and we have a good group of guys. As you guys have seen with our D-line, we like to rotate as many guys as possible. So, adding Taylor, Rankins.
Added damn near 50. It's plenty to rotate.
To that group, I think we've improved our D-line. And those guys, it's a really tight room. Hated losing Rankins the first year. Wanted to really bring him back, but his leadership in that room was really phenomenal his first year. So I'm excited to add him back. Mario had a really good year for us. He definitely deserved to be back. Just what he brought, the energy that he brought to our team. So I'm excited with the group we have. Daniil's another guy who's able to get an extension. He's came in, he's done it the right way. He's improved our room. He's helped the young guys in that room as well. So I'm excited. Coach Rod, can't say anything with the D-line without, giving Coach Rod his credit. He's done an outstanding job of getting those guys ready to go every week.
Rod Wright out of Texas, of course. DeMeco, he loves the D-line. He loves the D-line. Now, how much does he love it? Could he actually draft D-line? Probably not, right? Not early, right? Who knows? Back to Coach.
The moves you guys made on the O-line and the receiver room, how much was CJ at the forefront of trying to have you guys' mind in terms of trying to get him, not necessarily a better supporting cast, but just trying to get him pieces that can help elevate him going into year 3?
with the moves that we made, it's really just about improving our entire team. Not about one person, but it's improving our entire team, improving the offense, improving the defense as much as we can. And that's what those moves represent.
Do you think how you all approach free agency and going after so many offensive linemen changes the approach in the draft, or could you still target early offensive linemen in the draft?
Jeez, I don't know what our approach was to start. No, we'll see you never know. That's the fun part about the draft. You can go through it all. Everybody has their mock and opinion, but no one really knows how the draft is going to fall. So it's
beauty of it.
Up to us, and Nick has done an outstanding job of just putting the work in. Right, we've done a lot of extensive work on a lot of guys in the draft. Our scouts have done a great job. So we'll just continue with our same philosophy we had as we've been here, is draft good people, good players.
With so many different guys added on the offensive line, you mentioned competition.
Yeah.
Is the conversation with those guys, hey, like, you're here, you may have done this elsewhere, like, we're going to keep adding bodies and the 5 best guys are going to play? Is that kind of make that clear to the guys when they're getting here?
Yeah, it's made clear to the guys that we want guys to come in and compete. I'd never promise anyone anything. Are you going to compete for it? You compete for it, you become the starter. Whoever can help our team the best, that's who's going to be out there, right? At the end of the day, it's our job to go and win games. So to win games, we want our best players on the field. And we can go through a season and have our best players there for an extensive amount of time. Like, we'll be in a good position to go and compete and win games.
Watching 2 years, how have you kind of gone about, because you're the head coach, you're kind of in a CEO role, especially when you oversee the offense. What's kind of your process of kind of evaluating or coming up with a vision of how you want the unit to look?
Yeah, for me, it's, I understand, with my philosophy, at the end of the day, it goes back to how do I want us to look as a team, right? And that's
you lean defense, DeMeco. Let's be serious. We haven't taken off the O in DeMeco yet. DeMeco, sometimes it does feel that way, though. Like Dirk Nowitzki, when he was first in the league, he was no D. Might not be an O in DeMeco. Let's be honest. You do lean defense. Let's be honest. And defense is really good.
It's not different for the offense, defense, special teams. Like, I want us to come out. We're going to play fast. We're going to play physical. We're going to play relentless. And we got to play smart football. What does that look like schematically? It can look a lot of different ways. It can look a lot of different ways schematically. But it's about putting guys in their best position to be successful. And that's what defensively, I'm not beholden to one type of defense. I'm not beholden to one type of offense. It's just a matter of putting guys in the right spot, allowing those guys to go and play their best. And so there's an evaluation process that goes throughout the offseason, training camp. You see what guys do best. And in a season, I think you morph in a season as well. You may go in thinking you're one way, but you morph in a season. And the game is constantly evolving, constantly changing. So as coaches, we have to continue to evolve and change.
And I think he does a good job of that on defense. And I think the example of what he said there was, with the previously mentioned Christian Harris injury, as a result of that, Jalen Petrie, you found a role for him and you used it quite often. And I think DeMeco does a good job of that. Like, all this stuff that he says that he wants happens on defense. Guys get coached up. You find guys, you get the most of them. You function at a high level regardless of the personnel. And on offense, it's the complete opposite, quite honestly, quite frankly, in the most important areas. If the offensive line were coached like the defensive line, or the offensive line talent was evaluated at the same level that the defensive line talent has been evaluated with DeMeco Ryans, might damn near be talking about an AFC championship. But that's not the case. And that's something he's going to have to figure out. And we'll see what happens with Nick Caley.
To that, like, how did you and Nick have been working together almost 3 years now. I'm sure you all had different philosophies, maybe coming in, or maybe y'all had the same philosophy. But how did you feel like y'all kind of came together to be able to work well together?
Hey, great question there. The cool thing about Nick and myself is So we start talking and discussing things. We see the game pretty much the same way. Like the type of players that we're looking at. We talk about the draft process, free agency. It's not been many times where we've been, split on guys, right? Because you're looking for tough, smart, dependable football players.
Oh
right?
my God! He just said the B.O.B. line. Tough, smart, dependable. Casario, Patriot Way might be here. I haven't heard that since B.O.B. Tough, smart, dependable. Nick Casario's bringing that Patriot stuff. We heard it regurgitated from Bill O'Brien. Now DeMeco's saying it. The Nick influence is alive and well.
It's not been many times where we've been, split on guys, right? Because you're looking for tough, smart, dependable football players, right? And that's easy to find when you put it in that category, and that's what we look for.
On Saturday, you guys added EJ Speed. He just said that your linebacker background that you guys share, that meant a lot to him, resonated with him in making his choice. So what does that mean to you, and just what do you feel like you'll bring to the table as a linebacker?
EJ's put some pressure on me there. No, EJ's just watching him. I remember EJ came out of Tarleton State, thought, man, fast, long, explosive linebacker, and he's developed into a solid linebacker there with the Colts. And I'm looking for him to just come in and add some of those same qualities that he's shown, like playing fast, playing physical. He's made a ton of tackles the past couple of years, so excited to see him in the mix with our linebackers to see what we come up with.
A couple of other wide receivers besides Christian, Justin Watson, and Braxton Berrios. So Berrios is.
Listen to what he says about Justin Watson. Like people talking about Justin Watson being a sleeper. Listen to this praise. This is wild.
A lot of special teams background. Yeah. What do you kind of foresee from those guys in the wide receiver room?
Yeah, Berrios has shown the ability to be a really good punt returner in the league. So expecting to see that from him, but also not just punt return, but he's also showing up, making plays in the slot as a receiver.
So they're open to multiple playmakers in the slot. Check.
And Watson has just been one of the most consistent guys in the league. Plays fast.
One of the most consistent guys in the league.
Fast, plays the game the right way. So I'm excited to add him. Bigger receiver, plays fast, tough, physical. So excited to add him to our group as well.
When you mentioned that you're not beholden to one scheme or one way of doing it, something you have to morph. When did you kind of learn that? Was it when you became a DC, when you were playing in the NFL, or was it linebacker coach? When did you kind of realize that you can't necessarily be beholden to one thing? Sometimes you have to morph, and it's all about putting guys in position to succeed. When you kind of figure it out?
I learned that my first year as a defensive coordinator. Right? You understand, depending on what personnel you're going on the field with, sometimes you may want to run certain things, but you have to. If the players don't do that well, and at the end of the day, your goal is to win games. So how do you adjust? How do you change and put players in position to help them win? Like if guys struggle playing man coverage, then you shouldn't put them in man coverage. You got to mix it up, play a little zone, or vice versa. If you got a guy that's really good in man coverage, you give him that opportunity to play man coverage and do it really well. So it's just a matter of different guys. How do you adjust to the guys and not try to fit the guys into a particular box?
And that's what he does well on defense. On offense, Bobby Slowick's throwing bubble screens to whoever the hell's out there. It's not player dependent. A lot of times they're trying to run the ball regardless of who they're going against. So DeMeco's philosophy is right. Again, it goes back to the biggest mystery, the offense. Got to get the offense to resemble from an evaluation and from a preparation / execution standpoint. He always says execute. Got to get the offense to at least catch up a little bit. Anything else?
Laken Tomlinson.
Yeah. Oh,
he's
Laken
played
Tomlinson.
So much football.
Listen to what he says about Laken Tomlinson.
Like an Iron Man. Basically hasn't missed a game like 7 or 8 years. What's that like? Does that kind of set a standard for like, hey, this is the type of guy we'd love for you guys to be, with the young guys? Like, he's out there every week. And then what does he kind of bring to the table now?
Laken brings a unique mindset, an old school mindset, type of throwback mindset. He's going to be out there. He's working. Had the luxury of working with Lakin before, just seeing him work up close and personal. Really great teammate, phenomenal teammate, going to bring great energy to the group. And as you mentioned, he is that Iron Man. He doesn't miss a lot of snaps. He's reliable, a reliable guy who's been out there, and it means something to him to be out there. He's a really good leader. Excited for our guys to just see how Lakin works, and I think he can help our young guys, JP, Juice, Titus. He can help those guys out as well.
What did y'all see when y'all in Ed Ingram when y'all traded for him?
He loves Lincoln Tomlinson, doesn't he? And hey, he said it's a unique trait. I don't think it's unique. It might be unique here. But the hard-nosed, tough mindset, that's what you think of offensive line. Seems like most offensive linemen, they don't move like wide receivers. Shout out to Laramie Tunsil for being blessed enough to do that. But that might be a unique mindset here. But I don't think it's too unique. But he loves him. Now we're going to get an Ed Ingram question. How about that? Let's close it out with the Ed Ingram, the nightcap.
Yeah, we made a trade for him, saying it's an opportunity also to have a young guy, who's he's still fairly young in his career, but Ed has started a lot of games, competed a lot, so he's just another guy to add to the mix to see, what that competition looks like with our group.
There you go, competition. That's the word of the day on the offensive line. Non-existent last year, it's a thing now. And DeMeco Ryan seems excited about that. He seems excited about Christian Kirk. The defense, we know the defense is going to be good. The offense, a lot of question marks there. That was DeMeco Ryans. We finally heard from him. And it's draft month officially. So I cannot wait. We'll see how DeMeco does heading into year 3. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. We heard DeMeco Ryans speak to the local media types. I kind of want to touch on something he said with the national media types. And I also kind of want to highlight one of the biggest weasels that I've seen in a long time. And he happens to coach a team in the AFC. One of the big conversation points this year when it comes to roles is the tush push, which Philadelphia has executed at an extreme level. Nobody else can execute at that level. And quite frankly, for me personally, it's hard for me to imagine banning a play just because one team and one guy is really, really good at it. To me, it seems asinine. It actually is disgraceful. Like, that's something I would expect from maybe the NBA with Adam Silver, but in the NFL, you can't do that. They've made a lot of mistakes. This would set a terrible precedent. Because think about what we're talking about. You remember the video of Jalen Hurts when he was at Oklahoma that went viral, where he squatted, I don't remember if it was 600 or 700 pounds. You know why that was such a big deal? Because it's rare for a quarterback to be able to do that. That's an elite trait that very few have. It's damn near one of one. Maybe Tim Tebow back in the day is squatting that, but there aren't a lot of quarterbacks that are squatting damn near 600, 700 pounds. So it's really not a surprise that when it comes to using your legs as much as you have to use your legs, that on a QB sneak, that Jalen Hurts is good at it. It really shouldn't be too much of a surprise. It's almost like seeing a guy at the NBA combine have 47-inch hops and seeing him that it's effortless for him to dunk. Like, are you going to outlaw the dunk too? Because he does it better than anyone else? Other teams have tried this, and they're just not as good at it. Let's localize this, though, here in the locker room. And let's hear from a former Houston Texan, first-year head coach, Aaron Glenn. Let's hear what Aaron Glenn has to say about this controversy, the tush push. Here's what Aaron Glenn had to say at the owners' meetings.
Say it again. What's your stance? Huh? But still, what's your stance? You see? Now let me. Listen. I would say. So you want me to say the wrong thing? You take it off. That's all right. Here's. They've done a good job of creating a play that is hard to stop. And to me, when I go back now, I'm in my defensive coaching mentality. My job is to stop that play. And I think I would answer like that. My job is to stop that play. So regardless, it's going to be another play that's going to come out. It's going to be hard to stop. And our job is to stop that play. So I'm going to answer it like that.
And that's a great answer. I don't know why it's so hard for him to really answer it, because that's the right answer right there. There's no one else doing it. But you know, the funniest thing about this, and DeMeco Ryans actually had the right mindset. The funniest thing about this is there is a team who's tried to do this, and they scored 7 touchdowns doing so. And they tried to do it in the biggest situation, and they failed a couple times. And it prevented them to getting to where they wanted to go. And that's the Buffalo Bills and Sean McDermott's football team. And we look at what DeMeco Ryans had to say about it. DeMeco's not a weasel. Right there. You look at what DeMeco Ryans had to say about it. DeMeco said, quote, "It's tough to punish a team for being really good at something." One would agree.
It's
now look at this
added
weasel.
force, similar.
Let's hear what Sean McDermott has to say about it, who tried to do this the second most times in the league, scored 7 touchdowns last year, lost in the AFC ship because they couldn't convert on 1 yard. They had awkward ass tush pushes. Let's hear what this weasel has to say, because I think this is disgraceful stuff right here. I think it's embarrassing, and I think it's incredibly weasel of what Sean McDermott had to say about something that he can't do, and only one team can do at a high level, but they've tried it the most. Take it away, Weasel.
To how I felt at the combine, I've done, I've dove deeper into more of the data on it, and just thought more about it as well. And my position hasn't really changed at all. I feel where I'm most concerned is, even though there's not significant data out there to this point, my biggest concern is the health and safety of the players.
Wait, hold on. So there's no data, and your concern is the health and safety of the players? No, you suck at it sometimes, but you still ran it more than anyone else. There's no data, but I'm concerned about safety. That makes no sense.
First and foremost.
What are you seeing with the health and safety of the players? Since
Thank you.
You said there's really no data to say there's injuries. Like,
Thank you.
Good
Good
Yeah,
follow-up.
I mean, I think anytime you get in, it's 2 things. It's force, added force, number 1, and then the posture of the players. Being asked to execute that type of play, that's where my concern comes in.
Do you think you'll continue to run the play if it remains, and you have concerns about the safety? Do you think you'll continue to run?
Yeah, will you continue to run? These are good questions.
A form of it, right?
A form of it.
So I think it's a loose term, really, in terms of what defines a tush push. So
I mean, a form of it.
So
you're going to continue to run it?
There's different forms of it out there. I know we are one of the teams that people identify that run it
a lot.
That's fair. There's other teams as well. So I just look, we're gonna always act in a way that's best for the health and safety of the players.
No, you're not. You run the play.
I think that's the responsible way to go.
It's crazy to me that it's crazy that he acts this way. And quite frankly, I found myself, and I don't know about y'all, but I found myself as a casual observer that more times than not, I root for Buffalo when I don't have a rooting interest, because they've been through a lot. You lose 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s. That's a lot. Their fan base is as passionate as any fan base. I think they would treasure a Super Bowl more than any other team. Quite frankly, you're tired of some of the teams that they're competing with. But I'm glad that Weasel's come up short now. Quite frankly, I will be rooting against the Buffalo Bills in every single game, because that's how little respect I have for that garbage that he just spit out. I think that's shameful. I think that's absolutely shameful. And I always talk about this like in my fantasy league. And I'm using an example. It's not like I'm like Commissioner Goodell. But this has always been a thing in the fantasy league that myself and Stutz have been in for 15 years. We've been in the same league with a bunch of our friends. Promise this is going somewhere. But there are certain guys in your fantasy league who, whenever rule changes are proposed or whenever complaints are filed, it's just based on their certain situation. In other words, this guy's used 15 moves and we have a move limit. So all of a sudden he wants moves added. But if that same guy in any other year, if he had only used 2 of the moves, then he doesn't want to add moves. That's what Sean McDermott is. He's the jackass of a fantasy league who wants to adjust rules just based on what his current situation is. He doesn't care about the league. He doesn't care about safety. He's just sitting there because they can't do it as good as Philadelphia, and quite frankly, no one could. He's just sitting there talking out of his ass. And that's the difference between someone who actually cares about player safety and someone who just sits there and fearmongers player safety. That's what a chump looks like right there. If they would have executed the tush push appropriately against Kansas City and picked up one of those 4th and 1s, which they actually tried and it was very awkward, wasn't well coached, wasn't well executed. Josh Allen isn't as good as Jalen Hurts. It's not as coached. He wouldn't be up there saying that. But they look lost on short yardage. So this weasel now, based on that, is saying it. If we would be able to fast forward, go to a time machine, I can promise you, if they would have executed those appropriately, that weasel wouldn't be saying that. And that's the difference between a weasel and someone who actually cares about what they say. Sean McDermott is a fearmonger. He's a goofball. I will never root for the Buffalo Bills again because of that weasel. And I'm glad DeMeco's not a weasel. And it's interesting because as we were localizing this, we played 2 guys who were okay with it. And then we played 1 guy who was not. The 2 guys who were, both former Houston Texans, they were Pro Bowl caliber defensive players and players' coaches. And they both said that they weren't against it. The weasel that coaches in Buffalo, he's against it. Just straight up chump. But the takeaway here, DeMeco not a weasel. He could be in the fantasy league. DeMeco Ryans not dependent on his own situation. So there we go. We heard from DeMeco. We got into the McMillan controversy, and we are officially starting. It is officially time for draft month. What a time to be alive. We're getting through the slow time. SNL live tomorrow at 4. Cody Stutz live at the owners' meetings. Think we're going to hear from Cal McNair? Will he be solo? Probably not. Hannah will probably make an appearance. Who knows? We'll react to that. And just remember, when it comes to the draft, exceptions and examples are the only absolutes. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to everyone who has subscribed to SNL. Be sure to do that. Be sure to like this video. And be sure to always remember, as Benji says, hashtag DeMeco, not a weasel. There you go. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for coming through.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop.